Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, we're going to talk about SEC domination, and it's been pretty complete this year. You know, there was some scuttlebutt about how the SEC struggling in bowl games and all that. Well, guess what? When it really mattered, total domination again.
I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now? Oops, winning.
Yep, winning. Now, on today's video, I have not had my brother on in quite a while, and I thought, you know, I need to talk to Chilmont about the national championship game and all that. My other brother, Junebug, is busy playing in a golf tournament down in Florida. He's a pro and plays in a lot of those PGA events. But I thought I'd bring him onto the show, and we'd discuss the national championship, the 3 commits that we got yesterday, the transfer portal, and all of those cool things. But to get started, I'll probably need a little bit of help. Hey, Peyton, Carl, could you help me out a little bit?
Omaha!
Huh? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. All right, folks, this is my brother, Chilmont. You've seen him on the show many times. I wanted to talk to him about the national championship, the SEC domination, which was, you know, epic over the last week or two. And also all the commitments we got from the transfer portal. I mean, a ton. Yesterday was the biggest transfer portal day for the Vols, I guess, ever. And so we're going to talk about that. Let's start out with the SEC domination. Of course, Georgia just absolutely destroyed TCU. It's the worst butt whooping I think I've ever seen in a national championship game. And we've had some, but not like this.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the worst one I've ever seen. I mean, 65-7. And I don't know how they scored 7. To be honest, they got beaten so thoroughly, and they had that one long pass play, and that was really their game. The rest of it was total Georgia. The fact that they were ranked as high as they were, I mean, come on. You know, the internet's blowing up today, people talking about it, and, you know, this is the most lopsided victory, I think, pretty much the history of maybe one other team has won by more, and that's it.
Yeah, I've actually got a little highlight of last night's game that summarizes exactly how the game went. And did you see the final quarter was the Stetson Bennett show? I mean, they literally did everything but put him on a float and march him around the field while the game was going on. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, he was out there. It was 14 minutes left.
Yeah.
And he was walking around like this. He was doing like the Queen.
Yeah, the Queen wave there.
I almost couldn't watch it. I was like, are they going to show the game, or is this the Stetson Bennett award show?
I'm sure TCU fans will remember that for a while.
I bet Eric Ainge enjoyed that thoroughly.
Although I don't see them. Don't they lose their quarterback too this year? And
yeah, Dugan. And yeah, he's pretty darn good. That guy can play. He's pretty good, but look, when they're in your face like that and they've got those 5-star corners, you know, they're going to make you look like a clown.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
that was on a neutral field, too. That wasn't
everybody
in the stadium.
No, that wasn't in Athens. That was on the West Coast in L.A., for crying out loud. If that had been a home game, it would have probably been even worse.
Yeah, I wish we'd have had an opportunity to play them on a neutral field with Finn and Booker. I think we could have given them a good game. They might very well have won, but I promise you we would have scored on them, especially not having 7 offside penalties that we had down there in Sanford because we couldn't hear. That would not have happened at a neutral site. That's what stopped a lot of our drives at Sanford. It was 1st and 15 7 times.
Yeah, we got a taste of what it was like for other teams to come to Neyland. And
absolutely.
Like
absolutely. The Neyland treatment. Yeah, the Neyland. Got to say Neyland. I always say Neyland.
Yeah, Neyland was rocking this year the whole season. It was awesome. Yeah, I've got that picture smoking a cigar after the Alabama win. What a great moment that was in Florida with my son. That was awesome too. And with Junebug and their crew, that was just so many great games this year. It was sad it ended that way it did, but then we had an Orange Bowl win and looked great in that game when I thought that was a terrible matchup for us. I really didn't like our chances in that game, to tell you the truth. Turns out, I think Clemson was much ado about nothing. They're hyped up, not quite as bad as TCU, but pretty close. It's the sports media. They got ACC, Big 10, Big 12, got to prop them up and try to tear down the SEC. That's just what they do.
The beat down that the SEC put on the Big 12 and the ACC, and understand that was the top 3 SEC teams, which was Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
We were clearly the top 3 in the SEC. We were also the top 3 in the country. Now you could argue Ohio State or Michigan deserves to be in that discussion, but that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody else can even get a word in on that. And so when the top 3 SEC teams played, guess what? 65-7, 31-14 against the ACC champ, and 45-20 against the Kansas State champ, the Big 12 champ. So we just absolutely drug those teams up and down the field like a rented mule. So I don't want to hear any more from the national media about how the SEC is not dominant. And they're going to find out when we go into our 12-team playoff. They better get used to seeing the SEC in those final 2 games. We're going to have 2 teams in it. We're going to have 3. We might even have 4 one year. And you know what? Shut up, national media, because we're going to whoop up on some rear ends.
Shut up!
When we get in that 12-team playoff, and they're going to find out what the SEC is all about, and they're going to quit having these TCUs and Kansas States and all these knuckleheads that have no business in these big bowls. It's not going to happen when we have 12. Now, they'll get in the 12, but they'll be out very quickly.
You walk over, but you're limping back.
On how they do the brackets in the 12-team playoff. But like this year, it would have been Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU in the 12-team playoffs. Unless they have us immediately playing each other, obviously one's going to lose. It could end up being the last 4 teams being SEC teams.
Well, see, realize the first 4 teams won't have to play at all in the first game. It's going to be 5 through 8 versus 9 through 12. And if there are SEC teams in that, they're not going to want to match them up because they've seen that before. They're going to want to swap them, which is not good for other conferences. Means they're going to have to play the SEC even more in that playoff, which will mean more SEC representation in the final 4 games or the final 4 total.
Oh, you saw in the final poll. That's another thing to talk about, how they especially hate us. We put a major beat down on the ACC champion and didn't move in the poll. And TCU lost their last 2 games, got the crap beat out of them, and they actually moved up a spot to number 2.
They've decided if you make the Final Four, you're not going to fall out of the Final Four. They have internally discussed this and come to a conclusion that if you make the Final Four, you're going to stay in it. They're not going to penalize you because you have to play an extra game. That's what that is. That's obvious. How do you keep TCU at number two, and they got absolutely boat raced up and down the field? That was pitiful.
Yeah. And then lost the Big 12 title game.
What was it? Kent State or some team gave Georgia a better game than that. Whoever it was that almost beat them.
Yeah. And
now we're going to talk about the commitments that we got yesterday, which we'll start out with the first one that we got, which I think was huge, which is Dante Thornton. This guy's 6'5", 200 pounds, runs like the wind, got great hands. He was a 57th rated high school recruit in the country. So he was not quite a 5-star, but he was a very high 4-star. Everybody wanted him. He was the number 7 wide receiver in the country in that class. He's coming to UT now that he's matured, gotten some strength about him, and played a full season. And I think this guy could be fantastic.
Wait till he gets into our strength and conditioning and gets with our coaches and learns how to run routes and get open. I mean, like you said, he looks like a nightmare matchup for everybody. And if they can show him our offense and he can start clicking with our offense, and Milton can continue to improve like he really did during the Orange Bowl, I think we could still be pretty good. I don't think our offense can be as good as it was last year, because that was, I think, about a once-in-a-lifetime offense. With Hooker, it was just a perfect storm with Hooker and Hyatt, Brew McCoy, and all the other guys, and the good run game, too. Our run game was very underrated. I think next year there might be a fall off. I don't think there'll be a huge one, especially if we can shore up the defense a little.
Yeah, I could see us winning 9 or 10 games. That's possible.
Anything could happen, but I don't see us getting to the playoff like we had the chance to do this year. Like I said, Hooker to Hyatt was unbelievable this year. I mean, that was like Peyton at Indianapolis, and it's just crazy.
Omaha! 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 Omaha!
We've definitely picked up some nice ones. We picked that wide receiver. Didn't we pick up an offensive lineman too, didn't we?
Yeah, we picked up a defensive lineman, a wide receiver, and an offensive line tackle. Here's the deal, though, Wilmot. Everywhere that Heupel has been, there's been some wide receiver that has gone off. Okay, when he was at Missouri, they went from 300 yards a game of offense to 500 immediately when he took over as offensive coordinator. And I remember those years because we couldn't beat Missouri, and I couldn't figure out how they were so good on offense. I didn't even know who Josh Heupel was. I had no clue. And he had these 6'5" wide receivers, these Dante Thornton type guys that were awesome, and we couldn't smell stopping them. And they just tore up the SEC with them. And then he took over at UCF as the head coach. And I still didn't have a clue who he was until he was hired here. And I didn't even connect those two.
Well, I remember when we played them that year and they had those two giant wide receivers. And I remember at the start of the game, they started completing passes. And I said, dang, who are these huge receivers they've got? And they killed us. And that's what he does. He gets these matchup mismatches. These tall guys who are pretty fast, but who can run in his system and follow direction and run the routes to get open. That's like Hyatt. How many times was he wide open this year? Receivers too. They're not just open, just wide open. Nobody within 5-10 yards. And that's what Heupel does better than anybody. He schemes to where all of a sudden, maybe he's not open this play, but he's running this play to set it up for the next one where he's wide open by 10 yards and waltzes into the end zone. And we saw that in the Orange Bowl with what was his Keaton?
Now, if you look back at the highlight,
that kid's going to be good.
Ramel faked that guy out, and I mean, he left him just looking like a moron. That was Ramel more than anything.
Yeah,
he faked him out big time.
But still, Heupel's proven over and over that as an offensive coach, he's premier in the country.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we went from 107th to 7th to 1st in offense. I mean, it was unbelievable.
That doesn't happen.
That's crazy good. Is that what that is? That's insane good.
Yeah,
and he's done that everywhere he's been. He did that at Missouri. He did that at UCF.
Yeah.
Done it here. So, I mean, he's 3 for 3.
Yeah, it's not an exclusive Tennessee thing. He's done it everywhere, which means he really knows what he's doing, and his scheme is really, really good. He brings in good coaches. He's got guys that's been with him for years. The OC that left to take a head coaching job, he replaced him with the guy who was the quarterback coach, and he'll do great.
Alex Golish
as OC, I'm sure.
For Joey Halsley.
Yeah.
Golish
left, and that's it. And quarterback coach. How good has our quarterback coaching been?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been great. Part of the reason that those guys get so wide open, though, Chilmont, is that he's doing a couple of things. Number one, he's spreading you out like crazy, which really bothers the defense. But then he's going super fast, and then they miss an assignment. And if one player in that defensive backfield misses an assignment, we're wide open. We're wide open. Let's say a safety pulls up to cover a tight end. It's over.
Yeah, a little fake, and he takes the wrong step. D-back takes the wrong step. You're beat by 5 yards.
The one thing that we're going to miss from Hendon, I think Joe has the capability of being as accurate as Hendon was, and that's saying something.
Oh, yeah.
But Milton was 67% in the Orange Bowl game, which is the critical number. If you can go 67% completion rate, that's very accurate, and that works really well in any offense. And he's got a great arm, and he showed us that he can pull it back and not overthrow. And under intense pressure, which surprised me. I thought that was going to be a real problem in that game, and that we were going to be talking about quarterback issues all winter long. I was wrong, and he came through beautifully. And he showed us that he can play under intense pressure. which
Yeah,
is
I like
fair.
it.
That's what Hendon did really well. Hendon was clutch. That guy was clutch.
Yeah. He had his best games against the hardest teams.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, though, Wilmot. Here's what we're going to miss, though, with Hendon. That Joe really, I don't think he might be able to, but I doubt it. Hendon had this sixth sense of being able to know when to get out of that pocket and run that Josh Dobbs, there was so many magical moments against Alabama, Florida, whenever he knew to somehow escape and it would just turn everything around.
I think most of that is just you either have that or you don't. Some of it is teachable. They teach you to have kind of an internal clock. It says 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Okay, now I gotta do something. But some of that, is just natural ability. You've got to have that sixth sense. If we can shore up the defense where, maybe we can score 35 and beat an Alabama, or score 35 and beat Florida or Auburn or whoever, instead of having to score 40 and 50 and 60, then it becomes much more doable on offense, and who knows what can happen. Okay.
Now let's talk about the commits. Besides Dante Thornton, we also picked up Omar Norman Lott, who is a defensive lineman. He's 6'3", 290.
Yeah.
He's a guy that is experienced. He's been in the weight program. He's done all those things. You're not going to have to build him up. He's ready to plug and play. And I can tell you that Coach Garner singled him out a year ago and wanted him, and he finally got him this year from Arizona State. So I think that was the guy they really wanted, and they got him. So I think he's a guy that can absolutely fill some space in the center of the defense. And, he's a grown man. He will handle SEC play fine.
That's so much what we needed, and the portal will help us probably more than a lot of teams, because we said so many holes to fill that we couldn't really do by recruiting that we needed to do in the portal, and this guy is definitely one of them. That linebacker we picked up, I think a week or so ago, some other defensive guys. We needed some guys who could play like next year and start next year. And I think this guy is definitely one of them. And man, he looks like a physical freak.
Yeah, he's also a tough guy. He's got a real tenacity to him. That's why Garner likes him. He's got a high motor.
That's what made Banks so good, although it kind of made him a problem too. But he was a tackling machine out there, and had some definite meanness in him. But that's what you need defensively. Need it really on the offensive line too. I think that's something that's underrated on the offensive line too. Need to be a little mean.
Yeah, we also picked up on the offensive line John Campbell. He is 6'5", 320 pounds. He has been playing college football for, I believe, 6 years. So he's going to be able to pop right in. He started all 12 games for Miami last year. So he's a plug-and-play guy. He's ready to go. You're not going to have to wait on him to put on 30 pounds and get strong. He's ready to go. And we needed an offensive tackle.
These guys, I don't know how these guys get so big, but that's exactly what we needed too, because we're losing one of the top linemen in the country. He's moving on to the NFL, and our center, I believe, even
Darnell Wright and Jerome Carter.
Darnell Wright is probably he's first round guy, I would think.
Yeah, he is. I think he's late first round.
And both those guys, they've been here a long time, and they're big losses. So they've got there's some big shoes to fill there on the offensive line, because that's one of the things that really helped, especially on the run game. Like I said earlier, our passing game was so exciting and so dynamic that it got all the press. But we had a good run game too, and both of those things are dependent on a good line. And we had a great offensive line this year. So hopefully we can shore that up for next year too.
Juwan Mitchell also entered the portal yesterday, and that was no surprise to anyone. We've been hearing that that was probably going to happen for weeks now. I believe it's Austin Price has done a really, he's great at what he does. He's been talking about how he's probably not going to be here for weeks now, and that's exactly what happened. So they're going to need to probably pick up another linebacker, even though we've got some good ones coming in. They're freshmen. We also have the Peel guy from BYU, and I've covered him a bunch. He looks like a mature.
That was a big get. Yeah, that was a big get there. We need
Who was the guy? Gosh, who was the guy that played great in the Orange Bowl, Wilmot? Our linebacker, right? Beasley. Mr. McBeasley.
Yeah.
Mr. McBeasley played really well, and he played great.
Yeah, after the Orange Bowl, I said, where the heck has this guy been all season? Holy cow.
He's played really well all season. Yeah, I was wrong about him. I thought he wasn't big enough. He really but then that's the key of having a guy, maturing and getting bigger and stronger. All of a sudden, he's a different player than he was the year before. He was about 10, 20 pounds lighter last year. This year, he was a man out there, and he whooped up on some folks. He played awesome in that Clemson game.
Yeah, he went beast mode in the Orange Bowl, and that was great to see. It was a huge part of the win. He did great.
He became Banks. He was the new Banks on that. He made us forget about Banks for a game.
He certainly did. And what did he have? He had 2 sacks.
He had 12 tackles.
Like 3 or 4 tackles per loss. Yeah, just crazy.
He had 14 TFLs.
And those are the things that, and those are the things you get 1 or 2 of those, you've stopped 2 drives.
I would expect another linebacker out of the transfer portal now after that. I think we'll probably pick up a linebacker, and it'd probably be this spring because we're getting ready to end this little period here. But Mark, I think May 1st through the 15th, there'll be another transfer portal opening. A lot of these guys will figure out in the spring where they're headed because they're going to know whether they're going to be playing or not. And I think we'll see that with our team. We'll probably have some guys enter the transfer portal that realize, hey, I'm 3rd string, 4th string, whatever.
All right, folks, that was just a little conversation and a discussion of everything Vols and the SEC domination, of course. And I'll have a regular show tomorrow. Just wanted to break it up a little bit. I hadn't had my brother on in a while and just thought I would do that today. And what a game. Good grief. Georgia just absolutely of course, what the Vols did to Clemson, Bama did, it's just ridiculous. SEC, man, we're number 1 for a reason. Winning. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols, the SEC, and all that good stuff. Now, I know some of you watch my videos and you don't subscribe. It's right here on the left. It's the easiest thing in the world to hit. Just boop. It's all you got to do. Super easy. And on my right, YouTube's putting a video right over here. It's one of my most recent ones, and be sure to check that out. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.